conectar. Kimbatta ministerden on ambassador Vasilenko Mirza. Bugunga ula martabella Karolden tugan kunana arnalgan keşke. Sizlerde körgenime vöte konuştum.
Very good. Malades.
Darınızday. Biz bugün ağılşın avarayında özümüz binlerge alıp geldik. Thank you for laughing at my attempt at a joke in Kazakh. I said, welcome ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here for the King's birthday party. And I'm very, very delighted that we've also brought the English weather with us tonight. So, we're really delighted to celebrate our first ever King's birthday party in Kazakhstan. I'm sure for our old and our new friends, it's slightly strange to hear those words, because for 70 years we celebrated Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's birthday. And I don't think any of us were quite prepared for how emotional we would feel when we heard just after 6 p.m. London time on the 8th of September that Her Majesty the Queen had passed away, or how touched we would be by the reaction around the world. I was enormously grateful to President Tokayev and to then Foreign Minister Telyuberdi for coming to our embassy to sign our condolence book. And I was hugely glad that our dear friend, Deputy Foreign Minister Vasilenko, was part of the Kazakh delegation led by Senate Speaker Ashimbayev to Her Majesty's funeral. As President Macron said so touchingly, for you, she was your queen, but for us, she was the queen. And I think he meant that she wasn't just one of the most famous women in the world, but also someone that people from around the world could admire for stoically, uncomplainingly getting on with her job as a girl, as a young woman, a mother, and then as a grandmother. The Queen was someone who connected us to our own history, to our own grandparents, and who continued to do her duty every day, indeed appointing a new Prime Minister just a few days before her death, always with a smile on her face, always with a sense of humour, and always impeccably dressed in a style she made her own. This is the Queen with Paddington Bear. I hope you've seen the video which they showed for the Platinum Jubilee. I spoke last year of how Queen Elizabeth's sense of duty was forged in war, as her parents refused to leave London as bombs rained down relentlessly on our major cities during the Blitz from September 1940 to May 1941. And so, on the 6th of May, at the King's coronation, I was struck by the first words of the ancient coronation service. His Majesty King Charles said, "I come not to be served, but to serve." I come not to be served, but to serve. This simple phrase captures the essence of modern leadership. It's exemplified, I think we'd all agree, by President Zelensky's leadership now in Ukraine, visiting his troops on the front line, being together with the Ukrainian people at their most difficult hour. And this principle of leadership as service was underlined for me when the King took off his royal robes and, wearing just a plain shirt, knelt down to be anointed and blessed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. It was a reminder that without his crown and golden robe, a king is, of course, just a man, just an ordinary man in a plain shirt, who is nevertheless called by history to an extraordinary role, a role symbolising power and tradition. But in fact, in a principle first established, of course, in 1215 in the Magna Carta, this role also requires him to give up any idea of absolute power, to agree that he rules by the consent of his peers, by the consent of Parliament, and subject himself to the rule of law. And this incredibly important principle, of course, underpins what we now understand democracy to be. As Winston Churchill once said, the worst form of government apart from everything else. Now, the coronation was one of the largest gatherings of heads of state, prime ministers and other leaders ever held in the UK. And we were delighted that Speaker Koshanov represented Kazakhstan and made some good contacts, as you can see. But what else has happened this year? Well, the diplomatic highlights were the meetings of our foreign secretaries, with Foreign Minister Tiliberdi in London in December, and the return visit of the Foreign Secretary to Astana in March, the first visit by a British Foreign Secretary in 20 years. In a packed 24 hours, he met the President, signed MOUs with the Prime Minister, opened the Queen Elizabeth II Square just across the way from this hotel, signed an MOU bringing Kazakhstan into our effective governance for economic development programme, met with NGOs and education professionals, ate beshbarmak with Roman, and yes, posed for a picture that got him on the front page of several British newspapers. There's a lot of detail to follow up, but the most important thing that he signalled in that visit was that in a difficult year, faced with intensely difficult challenges, the UK stands with Kazakhstan. The UK stands with Kazakhstan, and therefore Kazakhstan's future, security and prosperity matter to us. Security and prosperity have been two of the key pillars of our cooperation for at least the last 31 years. On security, we have strongly supported Kazakhstan's commitment to the UN and the principles of the UN Charter, and in particular the development of Kazakhstan's UN peacekeeping capability. We remain really proud of our collaboration with KazCent, Kazakhstan's peacekeeping training centre, and we've seen how KazCent has grown its capacity to train not just Kazakh, but other regional peacekeepers to UN standards. Last autumn, the Kazakh contingent won a bronze medal at Cambrian Patrol, our famous international training exercise in the mountains of Wales. We're just finishing the course, and braving the Welsh rain and mud is a great achievement. And I'm really delighted that a Kazakh female cadet will go to Sandhurst this year, a great step supporting Kazakhstan's Women, Peace and Security National Action Plan. Central Asia was also the destination for the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee this summer, doing its parliamentary duty in scrutinising the UK government and scrutinising His Majesty's ambassadors to make sure that we're doing the very best we can across all domains. And I'm sure the answer in their report when it comes out later in the summer will be, no, you can do more. And that includes, of course, supporting Kazakhstan's continued prosperity and reforms. Kazakhstan has had an incredibly difficult year, landlocked by countries subject to our toughest ever sanctions regimes. And we strongly welcome Kazakhstan's continued commitment not to be a backdoor to circumventing sanctions. And our companies have given Kazakhstan a huge vote of confidence this year. At least £250 million of deals have been signed in the past year that we in the embassy know about. I'm sure there are many more we don't know about, including £1 million investment by Weir Minerals in a mining super service centre opened by Akim Josayev in Almaty last autumn. Bilateral trade is at record levels. Our 9th Ministerial Intergovernmental Commission on Trade and Investment met in London in February, and we look forward to welcoming the Minister for Trade in the autumn. Both Kazakh and British businesses are also playing an important role sponsoring this evening. I just want to mention Air Astana, our constant friend, AstraZeneca, Alma Wines, supporting great British brands like Glenfiddich and London Pride, Almaty Cider, a great British Kazakh enterprise, and Shell. And I have to mention Nye Timber Sparkling Wine, which I hope you're all drinking. And since my French colleague Didier is not here, I will tell you that British sparkling wine is beating champagne in taste tests. So, just a few final words. King Charles for many years has supported his own charitable projects and wanted the coronation to highlight the themes most important to him: youth, diversity, sustainability and community. So let me say a few words about each. First, youth. I remain hugely proud of the role that the UK has played and continues to play in helping to educate Kazakhstan's best and brightest students through university collaborations, the brilliant work of the British Council, and of course through the Bolshak and Chevening Scholars. This year, Chevening is increasing by 20%, and the British Council offering new Women in STEM, Science and Technology scholarships. Education Minister Saisat Naubek is putting huge energy into developing new international collaborations. And I'm proud in September, the Great British University Heriot Watt will join forces with Aktobe University to provide a new offer to students in oil and gas engineering. Kazakhstan's true riches really are its young people. And we're celebrating youth tonight with 16-year-old Aziza. Where are you, Aziza? There you are. Who won our Ambassador for a Day competition with a brilliant video essay talking about breaking through the glass ceiling. Well done, Aziza. Second, diversity. Kazakhstan's people know something about diversity, traded with or invaded by numerous empires over the past 2,500 years, and with many minority populations today reflecting voluntary and forced migration. The UK is also an ever more diverse nation, with people proud to be British, with family roots from probably every country in the world. And we're celebrating that brilliant diversity and heritage tonight with special guests, the Melodians, there they are, who've been touring the world for 30 years, bringing the spirit of London and the Caribbean wherever they go, including Morocco, Albania, Zambia, and, amazingly, North Korea. Melodians, take a bow. They'll be playing outside after the speeches, so please go and dance. And we're also celebrating tradition with 3 members of the 1st Battalion of the Coldstream Guards, Captain Will Mansfield, Lance Corporal Thompson, and drummer Jenna. Thank you for joining us, and thank you again to Air Astana for making it possible. Now, sustainability is a theme that King Charles cares passionately about, and this year I was really pleased to discover a collaboration between a UK NGO, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, and Kazakhstan's leading biodiversity NGO, the ACBK, working closely with the Ministry of Ecology, and this has led to Kazakhstan being named by the UN at COP15 in December as one of its top 10 flagship biodiversity restoration projects. Just 15 or so years ago, there were just 50,000 saiga left, a unique steppe species whose home is pretty much only in Kazakhstan. Thanks to the Altyn Dala Golden Steppe Initiative, over 5 million hectares of steppe grassland have been protected, creating hundreds of rural jobs and helping the saiga population recover to almost 2 million. And Kazakhstan has also signed up to the COP15 pledge to protect 30% of land by 2030. Really important work. Final theme, I'm almost there. Community. Community means, in my view, a group that has something in common with each other, that helps each other, that feels a common sense of purpose. And I think tonight, with all of you representing the depth and breadth of our connections together, we're demonstrating the wonderful community of people forging closer and closer UK-Kazakh links. Our 30 Years for 30 People social media campaign over the last year highlighted some of the wonderful individual stories we've seen. Thank you to everyone here for bringing our 2 countries closer together. Finally, a nice story from last week. As Roman knows, the King, as Prince of Wales, visited Kazakhstan in 1996 and was given a chapan, a long Kazakh robe, as a present. Now, Roman himself has told me stories about that famous chapan, and I can tell you tonight, an exclusive. I met the King last week in person. We had our annual gathering of ambassadors, and he held a reception for us. And it turns out that he still has that chapan. And I said, Your Majesty, where is it? And he said, it's hanging on his bedroom door in Highgrove, his personal home. So, of course, I immediately invited him back to Kazakhstan to get another one for Queen Camilla. So let's hope he comes. Thank you.